You know the vibes. Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast brought to you by NBA 2K25. It's myself, Mooncey, alongside me. The GM extraordinaire, Mr. Scott Perry, is in the building. BJ is away today, so Scotty P is holding it down. Mr. Perry, the Super Bowl is set. Talk to me.
Yes, it
Talk to me.
is. Yes, it is.
Talk to me. What's good with that? Because I see a lot of people not too happy about that.
Well, rematch from the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and arguably the two best teams in the NFL this season. I mean, Kansas City, one loss in the regular season, got the best quarterback in the game in Patrick Mahomes, and he continued to do what he does in big moments yesterday and lead that team to another Super Bowl appearance. I mean, what he's doing really is historic, and
What's
he's
he going for? A
chasing.
three-peat?
Yeah, he's going for a three-peat that's never been done in this sport
Oh, Tom Brady never
in
had a
American
three-peat.
football. He never had a three-peat, no.
Okay.
So there's been a number of great teams that have gone back to back. And matter of fact, this is the first team to even reach the Super Bowl. Those teams that had won back to back normally had either lost in the first or second round, or
So
the championship round. So he's gone further, just making it to the Super Bowl. And the Eagles, look, they arguably have been the best team throughout the season. Dominant defense. They get Saquon Barkley, tremendous running back, from the Giants. All the New York fans are sick right now because they had this guy in the fold and didn't do much with him. And now he's in the Super Bowl, and he is a key reason why they're there, along with that great defense. And they've got other great playmakers. Jalen Hurts is just a really competitive quarterback. Shows up in big moments, and AJ Brown. So it's going to make for a great Super Bowl. I think it'll be very tight, exciting, back and forth, and so we'll see what happens.
So let me ask you this, right? Historically, it's been easier for NBA teams to three-peat. We've never seen a three-peat in the NFL. We've seen it in the NBA. But as of late, the NBA haven't had any back-to-back champions. Do you think right now it's harder to go back-to-back or win a three-peat in the NBA or in the NFL?
Well, I think because it's never been done in the NFL, so I'm going to have to say it's hardest to go a three-peat in the NFL because it's still yet to be done. Kansas City has one more game to prove it. And the reason why I say that is the nature of football is so physical, and the attrition and how rosters change year in and year out. Whether look, the NBA has a salary cap just like the NFL, but there's a lot more moving parts a lot of time in the NFL. And again, staying healthy for 5 months in the NFL season is very difficult. So I'm going to say that, but it doesn't. In saying that, it's extremely hard to do that in the NBA
Why do you
back to
think
back.
we've?
Let alone, I think the last three-peat champion in the NBA was the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq, right? Was that 2000 to 2002,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, they were the one three in a row, and that just it was to their great, was a testament to their greatness, and that was a struggle along the way to get to that point. But you had two of, arguably the top conservatively two of the top 10 players in the history of the game on that team, and you had an all-time coach in Phil Jackson, and they had some excellent role players and guys that knew how to win. But it's difficult now. We're in a different era.
The Warriors had a chance of winning five straight.
Yes.
But obviously, ultimately, they lost to Cleveland and they lost to Toronto in those. But why do you think, as of late, we've not seen the back-to-backs or the three-peats in the NBA like we used to? Do you think the new kind of CBA is going to make that even harder than ever before to keep a team together?
That's one of the reasons I believe the new CBA is going to make it a little more difficult to do that. And Mo, when you reach that mountaintop of winning the championship, then to me, a lot of it gets down to the makeup of the guys. How important is it to that group to repeat as champions? You fought so hard to get there and win it, and then the human nature of it is to excel. We're
Mm.
champions now, and how quickly the minds in that locker room from coaches and players can shift to, okay, we won one, but we really want two. We want two more than we wanted one. And to get to that mindset is not an easy thing. That's in front of the Boston Celtics this year. I think they have a chance to do it. but we'll see. We'll see just how, because look, everybody's shooting at you too, and that's the one of the most difficult things. When you are the champion, you're getting everybody's best effort throughout the regular season, and for sure come playoff time.
We've seen recent NBA champions be affected by this CBA. You know, the Denver Nuggets, they didn't want to keep spending their money. They had to lose a bunch of guys. The Celtics have managed to keep their team together. But a team that's always fascinated me, and me and BJ have spoke about this a lot, is the Lakers, who won the bubble championship and then kind of broke up the construction of that roster. And here we are 5 years later. Anthony Davis is finding his voice as kind of the leader of the franchise as LeBron gets older. And he sat down with Shams Charania and he said that he wants to play the four. Even though previously he said he wants to play the five, now he's saying, going back to saying he wants to play the four, and he wants the Lakers to go out and get a five to play alongside him. Shams said that the Lakers have tried to get Walker Kessler many times, but have not managed to meet the asking price. What do you think about this Lakers team? Do you think, because right now, you know, I consider them a middle of the pack team in the Western Conference. I'm not looking at them as serious contenders. But do you think them adding a five and having Anthony Davis back at the four makes the Lakers an NBA championship contender?
First of all, what you like to see from your group is not focusing on what you don't have currently and focusing on what you have and just playing each and every night. Because if you're looking short term and long term as a player, as a coach, in that locker room, and you're constantly focusing on what we don't have, or I'd rather play this position versus that position, I think that leaves an opening for you to be defeated. And it's a little bit, so I would be concerned by that. If I'm Anthony Davis and LeBron James, look, this is who we have, and I'm going forward with who we have and looking around this locker room and figuring, how do we uplift the guys that we have here to make our best effort and run into a Western Conference Finals and maybe a championship. Now, obviously, LeBron has been to the finals 10 times himself. AD's been there and winning it with LeBron at the Lakers, so he is a champion as well. So if I'm them, I'm focusing on that, because you never can necessarily depend on a trade. You mentioned like they've been making overtures for Walker Kessler. Well, look, Utah knows that, and what Utah knows is they're going to max. They like Walker Kessler, number one, and number two, if you want to try to pry him away in your own conference, well, they're going to make you pay an exorbitant tax to get him. And Lakers maybe are not willing to give up what they want to give up. No one's trying to help the Lakers win the championship. See, that's the thing here. You know, guys sometimes look at it as an entitlement. Well, you know, we're going to go get one of their better players, and then we'll send you someone who's at the end of our bench and a draft pick. Well, it doesn't always work that way, and especially inside your own conference. So if I'm them, I'm focusing on, how does this group that we have get better? They went out and made what I thought was a good, solid move in getting Dorian Finney-Smith about a month ago.
And they got Vanderbilt back healthy, and he's looked good.
Vanderbilt. Yeah. So now, okay, let's see what we have there. It looks to me that Finney-Smith is getting more and more comfortable in his role there. He's a tough guy. They needed perimeter defense. So let's see what this group can do. And Anthony Davis is good enough to carry them playing the five position, in my opinion. Now, if his heart is not in doing that, then that's a concern. But how many?
Because right now, Anthony Davis is putting up 26 points, 12 rebounds, and two blocks a game. He's having a great year.
Having a great year. And, you know, playing five today, center today, in my opinion, is not like playing center a decade or 2 decades ago, where a lot of teams were playing through that position. It was physical each and every night. You know, now the five guys playing the five, with the exception of a Nikola Jokic and, you know, Joel Embiid when he's healthy, there's not many teams playing through the five position, and where you're going to get, you having to bang for 48 minutes.
Yeah, just Houston as well, and that's about it.
Really. Yeah, Houston was saying go, and Sacramento. Yeah, so there's not like you're going to have to go through 20 teams that are playing that way. So, again, focus on what you have. If I'm the Lakers, on what you have today, and how does this group get better? Because in getting Finney-Smith, to me, this group is better than what it was last year, the group that Darvin Ham had, really the last 2 years. So Let's see.
And also, if you slide AD back to the four, LeBron then goes at the three, then
Yes.
you're running what, Christie and Reeves with those guys, and you got Rui coming off the bench. I'm not sure what that
Yeah,
rotation would look like.
what? Yeah, and at the three, defensively, look, LeBron is playing great, and he is defying father time in a lot of ways. But in these regular season games, I don't know if I want LeBron James out chasing a whole bunch of three men
Mm,
around stagger screens with if the teams that would opt to play that way and get him on the move a lot defensively because you need what he is bringing on the offensive end. So the four matchups for him right now are more conducive to his age and the style that he's playing right now.
absolutely. Well, the trade news around the NBA continues, surrounded by the drama of Jimmy Butler, who's once again returning from a suspension for the Miami Heat. We had a question in our Discord server from Missy B, a regular listener of the show. Shout out to Missy every time. She said, "Are Jimmy's suspensions discouraging for the teams who may be interested in adding him to the roster? You, as a front office executive, do you look at guys who, maybe not buying into where they currently are? Is that a
Mhm.
factor in when you trade for them? Are you just going to trust that they'll buy into you? Because, Jimmy's had this in Minnesota, he's had this now in Miami. Would you be
Mhm.
concerned about this if you were to make a move for him and give him that extension that he wants?"
Absolutely. Look, part of your job as a front office executive is to do great intel work and find out about the person. Look, we can see the game, we can see the talent, we can see the ability and make an assessment. Does that ability and talent fit in our locker room? But you also, equally important, have to find out if the makeup of the person, the mentality of the person, is a fit for your locker room and your organization. So, yeah, there's some concern. Now, you know that in this instance with Miami, that Pat Riley is an accomplished champion as a coach, executive. To me, has built one of the great organizations in this game in the Miami Heat, just in terms of being a model of consistency. So, they have a standard of what they expect. So from the outside, some people may look and say, oh, they're being too difficult or being too hard. But Jimmy also has a contract that he signed that is incumbent upon him. And what you're looking for a professional, okay, it's not going your way. You want to get out. How are you handling difficult situations? See, I'm studying all that. So what in terms to bringing it full circle, what that's going to do for teams that are looking at and studying the situation, they're not going to want to offer as much because there's risk involved,
Hmm.
on the back end that he's not happy there. And in this situation too, I believe all the teams know that it's so much about money for him that he wanted the extension, didn't get the extension. So that led to him being more disgruntled. And so that this disgruntled behavior in Miami may be a little bit different from what we saw in Minnesota and Chicago because this is more contract based late in the game. But again, we talked about this last week. Jimmy Butler's approaching 36 years old. Yeah, he has an option next year of a $52 million contract that he can opt into that you got to assume he's going to want to pick up, and he wants to be extended beyond that, uh, probably close to that number. And so teams are looking at that and saying, wait a minute, am I going to pay an additional on top of the 52 million that he's going to opt into? He
To a
wants two,
36 year
two,
old.
3 years, yeah, to a 36-year-old player. That's a big question. That's a big concern. A lot of these teams want to answer. And just in reading, it sounds like Phoenix is the team right now that would have some kind of interest long term. Whereas I think other teams may look at the situation. So, well, let me see if we can just bring Jimmy in here for the last 3 or 4 months, catch lightning in the bottle,
Yeah.
and win a championship, and we'll worry about the rest later.
Well, it's interesting because Brian Windhorst just said that the Bulls are absolutely involved in conversations with the Suns involving a possible Jimmy Butler trade. The Bulls and the Suns have ended up about the concept of Bradley Beal ending up in Chicago. Now, we know the Bulls have been trying to get off Zach LaVine's contract for a while now,
Hmm.
but getting rid of Zach LaVine only to bring in Bradley Beal might be the most Chicago Bulls that you could ever make in your life. Like that.
Well,
I
it,
think
it,
right
it,
now Zach LaVine is better than Bradley Beal, and
mhm.
that Bradley Beal contract. I don't want that contract. If I'm a front office executive, with all respect to Bradley Beal, I would
No,
not do
yeah,
that
no
move.
question. Yeah, and you're taking on a no trade clause in the contract as well. So what you get him, and look, uh, I agree. To me, that sounds like a move that keeps you stuck in neutral at best. And I'm trying to figure out what direction the Bulls are really trying to go here. Are the Bulls trying to position themselves to win more this year, or are the Bulls trying to um, position themselves where they can lose some more games to get in an ideal spot in the draft and maybe get lucky and get a top 2 or 3 pick in the draft? So again, I don't know what direction this Bulls organization has really, quite frankly, been going the last few years, let alone what this conversation surrounding getting Bradley Beal back for Zach LaVine. If that's the case, again,
Because
I
the
agree
Bulls
with.
don't own their first round pick this year, right? Surely that's going to Orlando from the Vucevic
Yes,
deal.
yes, yes. So
And they own the Portland Trailblazers pick, but that's protected 1 to 14. So that's pretty much
yes.
guaranteed they're not going to get it. And they only have Sacramento's second round pick this year. So losing games this year doesn't help
Hmm.
the Bulls too much. Trading for Bradley Beal doesn't help them, in my opinion, win a whole bunch more games.
No,
The framework for this trade could be quite complicated. Would be if Bradley Beal was to go to Chicago, they would be compensated with some of those draft picks that the Phoenix Suns just
so
got
got
from
from
the
Utah.
Utah Jazz,
Yes,
which are
exactly.
low value first round picks,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely, absolutely.
And then Milwaukee might get involved in a deal and somehow acquire one of the Bucks first round picks, which might be more attractive. But I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen with this situation. Do you have a prediction for Jimmy Butler going to play the rest of the season in Miami? Jimmy Butler going to get to Phoenix? Or because it's reported that he doesn't want to go to Memphis, who were in talks
Right.
about acquiring him.
Yeah,
So I
well,
don't know why you'd
well,
want to go to Phoenix, who are in the play-in, rather
mm,
than the Grizzlies, who are
yeah,
competing at the top of the West. Which,
yeah.
if you're about winning, doesn't make
Yeah,
sense
yeah,
to me.
yeah. Well, he has said many times, Mo, how much he enjoys living in Miami.
Mm.
So no disrespect to the city of Memphis, but I'm sure he's looking at it from a lifestyle situation. I'm gonna go from Miami to Memphis, where he lifestyle going Miami to Phoenix in his mind probably makes a little more sense. But at the end of the day, Mo, I could see nothing not getting done. I mean, no trade happening here. I really could
So he just stays in
because
Miami for the rest of the season.
could stay in Miami the rest of the season. I could see that because if you're Miami, you're not going to take a bad deal. The only deal you're going to do is if you can get a player or players back in return that can help this current group be formidable come playoff time. If not, you ride out the rest of the year. Now he has an option that if he said he doesn't want to be there, then he opts out of 52
Mhm.
million. He becomes a free agent,
Good luck.
and you move on. And Miami, I'm sure, has confidence in their ability to, if that were to happen, to figure out how they would add to their team and not have somebody on their roster who doesn't want to be there any longer. So that's what I fully expect. Miami is not one of
And
those teams that's going to panic and say, "Oh, we got to get rid of this guy because it's uncomfortable. We was having to suspend him. He's acting up. Blah blah blah." No, you're gonna have to come to Miami with a solid deal that makes sense for them. And if that happens, okay, a deal gets done. But right now, I don't see, or at least I haven't heard of anything that suggests to me that Miami's ready to trade this guy and get something in return that makes sense for him.
And here's the thing, if he does stay in Miami for the rest of the season, I see him picking up that option this summer because if you look at the cap space predictions, the
Hmm.
projections for next summer, I don't know if these are still up to date. This is from the start of the season, I've got in my notes. But the Brooklyn Nets are projected to have 50 million in cap space. The Rockets will have 30. The Wizards will have 25. The Jazz will have 24 if they don't keep Lauri Markkinen. And the Spurs will have 23. And when you look at those teams, Brooklyn are trying to go into a full-on rebuild. We've still got to see what they do with Cam Johnson. The
Yep.
Rockets, I don't think Jimmy Butler fits their timeline with Şengün and Thompson and the young guys they've got there. The Wizards, again, another bunch of young guys, and they've only got 25 million in cap space, which is going to be less than what Jimmy's looking for. The Jazz, again, doesn't fit the timeline, and they're trying to bottom out. And the Spurs, I don't think adding a 36-year-old Jimmy Butler to this group
No,
right now is
they're
the
not
right
going.
move. So there's not going to be right now as it stands, unless other teams get really creative with their salary caps. There's not going to be money available for a ton of big name free agents this summer.
No,
So
very true. Like you said, he could opt in and then be traded in the offseason because
yeah,
more things may open up, more trade possibilities or multi-team trade possibilities could open up at that time. That would make sense for all parties involved. And
yeah.
Jimmy is going to have to look again in terms of the places he's open and willing to go play in as well too. I mean, that's just the reality of the business.
When you look at this summer's free agent class, you've got Laurie Markkinen. If there's, did he get the extension? I can't remember. There's
Yes,
Brandon Ingram.
I
Also,
believe
so
he
Laurie
did.
Markkinen got the extension. Brandon Ingram, assuming that he's not traded and doesn't get an extension. Jimmy Butler's got the player option. Fred VanVleet has the team option. And then you've got, Chris Paul, Al Horford, Ben Simmons, who I don't think are going to be commanding huge money in free
No.
agency. You've got Trey Jones, you've got Alex Caruso. So I guess lucky for Jimmy, there's not a huge bunch of big name free agents that are out there this summer.
Hmm.
You're going to
Hmm.
obviously see how the playoffs go, and if a team is underperforming massively, they might panic and want to try and make a move for him. But it's a tough situation for him to be in, going against Father
No,
Time with the money that he believes he deserves.
absolutely. And look, and no disrespect to Jimmy Butler. Always respected Jimmy Butler, know him, respect his game, love his toughness, and really respect and appreciate the career he has carved out for himself. I mean, he far exceeded what many people expected. He was the last pick in the first round. And this guy every year found out a way to get better, improve himself, and helped his teams win a lot of basketball games over the course of his career. With that being said, with him going to the market at 36 years old, it's not like a LeBron James at 36 or Kevin Durant or Steph Curry. He's not in that
Proven
tier of
champions.
player. Yeah, those are former champions, and he's just not considered in that tier of player. So it's gonna be his free agent journey, if that's the path he ends up going, in my opinion, is gonna be a little bit different than those guys. So we'll
Player
see.
who's going to be in that tier of all-time greats, Victor Wembanyama. I had the chance to watch in Paris over the last week or so. And I've seen Wemby play only once before in person at the All-Star Rising Stars last year. But
Okay.
that's All-Star weekend. We ain't going to talk about that again. We
Hmm.
spoke about that last week on the show if you guys want to go back and listen. But watching
Okay.
Wemby in person, because obviously you see him on TV and it's amazing what he's doing. But seeing him in person is, I would encourage anyone to go and watch this kid play basketball because it was simply the first game, at least, where the Spurs blew out the Pacers.
Yes.
It was absolutely unbelievable what we were watching. I was at the game with a friend of mine, and even during the game, I said it was like the fourth quarter, right? Spurs are up like 30. I was like, damn, I've not even taken a video of Wembanyama playing. So I pull my phone
Right.
out, just on a random possession.
Right.
He shoots a logo three, it misses. He gets the ball back, self alley oops to himself off the backboard. Like this
Glass. Oh
guy
yeah.
is
Yes.
an
Exactly.
instant highlight. Do you know what I mean? That was the only
Right.
clip I got from the game, but I wasn't recording every, that's the only possession I recorded. And just
Okay.
how many players in the world are you going to end up with that result? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, there's no question.
It's
No, it might. It's a handful at most.
Absolutely. And it's like the love that the crowd was giving him in Paris, like every time he touched the ball, he's getting MVP chants. They're going crazy for him. And he really put on a show for them on both sides of the floor as well.
Right.
Defensively, obviously, the second game wasn't so great for the Spurs, but that was kind of expected the way that they blew out the Pacers the first time
Yeah.
around. But, seeing Wembanyama there and just him, I guess, seeing the love he's getting in his home country and the impact he's making,
Yeah.
because I saw millions of Wembanyama jerseys.
Oh
Every
yeah.
kid in the arena's Wembanyama jersey. But just the impact that made for him. And, I hear a lot from players who played on the '08 Celtics, right? And what they love to talk about is during the preseason that year before they won a championship, they did the NBA Europe live tour. So they played in Rome, they played in London, they played in
Mm-hmm.
all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they
Mm-hmm.
talk about how traveling as a group really made a
Mm-hmm.
huge impact. You were with
Yep.
the Knicks, right, when you guys did the NBA London games?
Yes, I went with so I went one with the Knicks and I went with the Magic as well
And
too. And I
Orlando
was
Magic
executive with the
versus the
Magic.
Toronto
Yes.
Raptors in
Yes.
London. That was,
Oh, yes, yes,
yeah,
because
that,
we played the Wizards when I was with the Knicks.
yeah,
Yes.
that,
Yes. Hmm.
that Orlando Magic one was the first ever NBA game I worked on, actually, quite
Yes. Okay.
crazily.
Yes. Yep. Hmm.
And the Wizards Knicks game was hilarious because I think it went down to did it go to overtime that one? And there
Yeah.
was like a
Yes.
goaltending call that
Yes.
decided the
Yeah.
game, but the fans in the
Hmm.
arena, because they're primarily football fans, they had no idea what was going on. But the impact of teams doing these international games, right?
Hmm.
How much impact did you see it having on your group? Because obviously the OA Celtics, they won the championship. The Magic, when they came to London, and the Knicks when they came to London, you guys were in very different places. You weren't really looking at contending for championships. But
Right.
did
Right.
you see it make an impact on the group of the players and the coaching staff? How much did that really impact? Or is it just an excuse to get away for a few days in the regular season?
No, it's definitely not an excuse to get away. That it is a time for your group to come together because you're doing activities outside of basketball as a group too. You know, you're going to the embassy there to meet dignitaries in the city of London, and the NBA. There's a lot of NBA personnel there, and you know, your players are out doing a little sightseeing together. So it's a time, you know, and you're going to a different country. So guys are more reliant upon one another too. You know, you're going there together as teammates, and so you can really turn it into a positive thing. You know, you talked about Wemby going home. What a great experience for him, a young man from France going home with his team like that. That was awesome. But I found it to be that way. The most difficult thing, though, what we looked at, and where I was at both in New York and Orlando, is when you return and what your schedule looks like. Because so depending upon where you're coming from, you know, New York to London is what 6, 7 hour flight.
Yeah. They don't
Um,
usually have West Coast teams, but the Spurs requested
yes.
the day they drafted Wemby, they requested to be the
Oh,
team
it made
that
all the
comes to
sense in the
Paris.
world. And now that they have it, what I liked about this, you know, with the NBA doing these back-to-back games with the same teams, they were able to accomplish that over there in France, which makes a ton of sense. And I think that model moving forward makes sense for guys, for teams to go over there and play 2 games if possible. It's a lot better because when you go over there to play and then you got to get back on the plane that next morning to head back, and then you may have 3 games in 5 nights when you return.
Hmm.
It can be a real grind, and you can see your team be a little more lethargic too because they're really trying to catch up. You know, when you talk about jet lag, then and that can be a real thing. So that was probably the only
Yeah, and
downside.
the
You
schedule's kind
know,
of favorable now because the Spurs have a 3 game
yes,
homestand that
yes,
starts on Thursday. So they've got a lot of
yes.
time
They have a lot of
to
time in
recover.
between.
And the same with
I'm
the Pacers. They've got a homestand or 2 games at home on Thursday and Saturday against the Pistons and the Hawks. So they've got
I
a lot
can't
of time to
remember,
rest.
I can't remember whether it was New York or Orlando, but one of those places we didn't have a lot of time when we came back. So, and I just remember that being a rather difficult stretch. So, yep.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Well, Scotty P, appreciate you as always.
Absolutely.
It's good to be back. I know we missed a few episodes whilst I was traveling last week, so apologies to you guys listening. I know you guys need your basketball fix, but sometimes I got to take care of business. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, exactly. Well, Mo, did you have a good time in Paris? That's what I want to know. Did you have a good time in Paris? I think that's what the listeners want to know. What was
Okay.
Mo? What was a day in the life of Mo Mooncey in Paris, France?
Well, well,
Exactly.
well. At the risk of saying too much, I'm not gonna say it. What I will say is this though. What I
Okay.
will say, what I will say is this: is I do want to give a shout out to Melvin and his brother I want to give a shout out to Tom and a bunch of other people who saw me, whether it's at the station getting on the Eurostar or whether they saw me around in Paris. The love that we were getting for the podcast from so many of the fans,
Really
it was so heartwarming, because obviously we do this,
awesome.
but I'm in my office every day, and and we get comments and stuff, which is beautiful, and I appreciate that. But when you
Right.
meet people in real life and they tell you how much they love the show, that makes my day.
That's
Like
awesome.
nothing else
That's
in the world.
awesome.
So that was
That's awesome.
beautiful. The day in a life was just, I was going meeting a lot of people from different brands, different organizations, going to a few events. It was Fashion Week as well, so I had to do a few fashion events.
Okay. All right. All
And then
right.
obviously the games, eating some good food. That's the day in the life. We ain't going to talk about a night in the life, Amo, because
We're gonna
that's
leave that alone.
we're gonna leave that
Exactly.
alone. But what I will say is, I
Well,
must
that's
have
why I
slept.
phrased it more a
Yeah,
day in the life. I didn't say
I
a
must have
day, a
slept
night
like
in the
one
life.
hour the whole time I was there. And I was having so many people because Fashion Week, everyone's in Paris as well. And you know what, Scott? I was using your quote quite a lot. So many people message me, Mo, where you at? Mo, which after party you going to? I had to tell them, hey, if you don't see me, don't look for
Oh,
me.
look for me. And they that brought see that brought silence. Then they said, "Oh, okay, we understand."
They understand it now. They understand it now. I love Paris, man. It's
Yeah.
the city of Paris. It's okay. It's not like quite how you have it in the movies. It's a little bit. They have a theory called like the Paris effect, where people
Okay.
expect it to be beautiful like in the movies, but in reality, it's rainy, it's cold, there's garbage on the streets. It's not the best that way. But the food, some of the restaurants there, unbelievable. Some of the
Okay.
most beautiful women in the world out there in Paris. Shout out to you. And,
Exactly.
and I had a great time. I had a great time. So
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, that was that. And that's it. Maybe we're gonna do some All-Star weekend and we'll see what happens over there in San Francisco. So, you
Oh,
know,
and hey, exactly. Hey, the Bay Area, that is one of my favorite places in this country.
hey, well,
It's
maybe I'll see
awesome.
you there, Scott. Maybe I'll see you
Exactly.
there. But I might also see you tomorrow on the show. And I'll
Yes.
definitely be seeing you next week. And
Okay. Yeah,
we're
for
going to keep
sure.
the episodes rolling out. So subscribe to the show, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast from. And most importantly, until next time, get buckets.